Unit 10 of 10 from my Introduction to Business series. This is the final capstone project. If you're one of my students, go ahead and skip this section so you can get the rest of the details. If you're one of my teacher friends out there using this content in your class via Teachers Pay Teachers, then follow along. Do note that although this says this is 3 days of instruction, realistically, this is closer to 3.5 to 4 weeks of work for your students. Do know that my class, if you buy the semester bundle, then you start at the beginning of the semester, and for the business plan, they work on it all the way throughout the entire semester long. But if you were to create this and purchase this just to supplement your work, then you probably want to expect to have at least, at a bare minimum, because this is two parts, you're going to have a business plan and a business presentation. The students are going to need at least a week and a half to work on the business plan. You'll probably need at least 2 days to present the business plan and how to go through it. You'll need at least another day to explain the business presentation, set up groups, check off what businesses have been created, and so on and so forth. And then for the business presentation, another week for them to actually make it with the slides, with their note cards, with their rehearsal, and all of those expectations. So all of that is outlined here. Although it does look like it's 3 days of instruction, it's realistically a lot longer than that. So I always start this type of a culminating unit by explaining where we started and where we have gone to. We started with basics of economics and business environment, business ownership and entrepreneurship, ethics and corporate social responsibility, employee motivation and behavior, marketing and consumer behavior, operations management, managing the business, pricing, finance, and the basics of accounting. The two final things that we have left are the business plan and business presentation. For the business plan, if you're someone that has access to these slides, then you can either click this hyperlink, which is abbreviated right there, business plan, or in the notes of this slide, you'll also find it there. The goal with this is to show how your business will operate, make money, serve customers, and grow over time. In just a moment, we will walk through the business plan step by step. Before doing so, I always make sure that my students, one, ran it through spell check or Grammarly, two, made sure it's in MLA format, 12-point font, Times New Roman, double spaced, three, deleted all of my templated instruction. I want this thing to be polished and college level, even though they may not necessarily be in college, or maybe they are, depending on what it is that you teach. And the idea is that this thing is so polished that you could hand it off to a banker and say, I am interested in actually opening this business right here. Please read through this and give me your feedback. If you have a bunch of templated instructions on how to do this, it's just not going to look the same. I've had students use this document for college applications to get into some of the most prestigious of colleges all around. Next up, did you abbreviate the hyperlinks? I want to make sure that my students are abbreviating hyperlinks. For example, where it says business plan right here, that could easily be an HTTPS colon / a bunch of other gibberish in there. I don't want to see that. I want to see it cleaned up. So the way that you do that is either two finger click it or right click it, depending on what computer operating system you're on. Then when it gives you the link option, you'll click the link. It'll give you two options. One is what is the link, and two, what's the text for the link. Change the text for the link to be something relevant to what you're teaching us to click on. Next, are all sections complete? And then one more final bonus, if you are a student that needs to have your students share the document with you in order to have access, I always have them share it with editing rights. Editing for two reasons. One, I can look at revision history, and two, I can provide them with more detailed feedback. The business plan. So students have been working on this all semester if you're doing the semester-long curriculum, and if it is something that you just picked up, then be ready to have your students spend some time working on this. So here we go. First, students will create a logo of their own for a business of their choosing. I recommend they use Canva Logo Maker, as you can see down there on the right. In the comment section, it gives you a hyperlink to go to Canva's logo creation station. They come up with their own name for their business, and that's where we get started. They put their name right there next to the word owner. It has a nice ring to it, the student's name, owner, and the date that I have them use is always the submission date. A couple quick notes for my students, as I had just mentioned a moment ago, about making sure they delete all of the pre-templated items, run spell check, shrink long hyperlinks, and also complete it in MLA format. I have my students create the executive summary last because this is when they know the business inside and out by the time they complete the business plan. The executive summary should be a one-page sheet that if I walk into a bank, the banker doesn't want to read through 25 pages of a business plan. Instead, they want a one-page, give me the summary, and is this something that I actually want to continue to read all the way through? I give them a hyperlink there that they can use to get some ideas as to what they should be putting there. The business focus is the details, and again, all of these instructions need to get deleted, is the details about the business. So what is the mission of the business? You'll notice also that I list that this was completed in Unit 3. So your students can go back to their guided notes, look up their guided notes, find the assignment in there, what was the mission statement they put for the business, and it's just copy paste. If they keep up with the guided notes all semester, this is a breeze for them. If you are just picking this up, disregard the units as a whole. From there, what are the business details? Give me an introduction about the business structure, location, and layout. Are you going to be a sole proprietor, a limited liability company? Are you going to be a partnership? Who are you going to be, and why did you choose that structure? Where will you be located? I recommend students use loopnet.com to find commercial real estate for lease. They'll then calculate how much that monthly lease is, which was completed in Unit 6 guided notes. They then create a layout of their business from an aerial bird's eye view using the requirements as listed below. From an earlier unit, Unit 2, they created a resume for themselves. If you're working with partners, students chose a different executive officer title, and they would be listed there below. The aims and objectives from Unit 4 are just the goals of the business. What are the short-term, mid-term, as well as long-term goals of the business? That resource right there will take them to the idea of SMART goals. Staffing and human resources. How many employees will the business need, and what will their roles be? At least 3 motivational strategies that you can use besides here's pizza on Friday. This all comes from our Maslow's hierarchy of needs conversation from Unit 5. They then did a little bit of market research to find evidence of customer demand. Realistically, we would do this in a much larger scale, but for right now, I just have them survey 3 other students using these questions here. A SWOT analysis to determine what are things they can control. So internally are their strengths and weaknesses. These are things they acknowledge. Externally are opportunities and threats. These are things that they can't necessarily uh, change, but they can adapt to or leverage to use in their advantage. Then they do a SWOT analysis in a more brief format for a competitor. We go through corporate social responsibility, where they discuss how they will treat their customers fairly and one way that their business will give back. Marketing plan is the section where we start talking about the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. What is the product or service you are selling? What makes you different? What's your competitive advantage? Why should I choose you instead of somebody else? And how much are you selling it for? Now that we know those pieces of information, how will you promote it? Students will attach a sales promotional flyer, as well as either a menu, pricing sheet, or fake catalog page from our marketing unit. The operations plan goes over how customers will place orders or book services. How will your product be made? Is it made to order or made to stock? Is it you going in and ordering a Bentley, or is it you going into the Toyota dealership and buying a car right off of the lot? One way that you will reduce your wait times or improve efficiency. The ideal customer profile. Who is your customer? How old are they? What kind of lifestyle do they have? Where do they shop? Where do they hang out? Why would they choose your business? And last is the financial plan. Your startup expenses from Unit 2, where you list out all the things you need just to get started. And these are not things like salary and wages. These are like computer, printer, cash register, rug, display case, those types of things, signage. And then finally is the financials. Financials. How is it that how much will it cost to create 1 unit of your main product or deliver your service? And so they go through the things such as how much is the markup, how much is the main selling price of the item that you are selling, what are 3 fixed expenses, 3 variable expenses. Do keep in mind, this is not a full accounting class. I just do a quick 1-week basics of accounting type of a unit. And finally, in the appendix, they attach a link to their business presentation we just briefly discussed or will be discussing. And lastly, in the additional information or supporting documentation. This is the presentation criteria. It is worth noting that I do award 10% extra credit for my students that come in professional attire. Before we ever get too far in this, I always have my students know that if you're somebody that is not in a situation to be able to acquire professional attire on time, whether it's for lack of financial constraint or financial ability, or rather it's perhaps you just don't have access to get to the store or whatever that might be, Let me know individually if you do want to participate, because there's always ways that you can find professional attire for a student, even if they can't afford it. There's going to be clothing stores that are generous and willing to make contributions, or maybe it's the Goodwill or other donation shops like that. The general idea for the presentation is this is them presenting the culminating idea of the entire business they've created all semester long. My expectation is that it will be polished on ideally Canva, because in my opinion, you can make a more aesthetically pleasing slide deck presentation than you can on Google Slides, or you could use something else if they are familiar and comfortable by doing so that way. The content and criteria of the presentation are as follows: an introduction, mission statement, business structure, problem that the business solves, who is the target market, the marketing mix or 4Ps, community impact in corporate social responsibility, what is the competitive advantage, and then finally a conclusion. This is the rubric that I share with them. And that right there, folks, concludes this semester for Introduction to Business. I really do appreciate you using these resources, whether it's an individual resource you've chosen to use for this or the full semester bundle. Your feedback helps me a ton. I really would appreciate it if you would go on to my Teachers Pay Teachers site, leave me a review, let me know how I did. I pour my heart and soul into this work, and I want to make sure that every student out there has access to be able to start their own business venture, because I believe that we create the most valuable content on campus. Thank you so much, and all the best to you and your students.